Hey, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about alternatives to home ownership or to single family houses. Um, the downside to owning your own house is sometimes maintaining it, because maintaining it costs money. Mowing the lawn, shoveling snow, making repairs. That kind of stuff keeps a homeowner busy. And some people just prefer not to be responsible for this. So what are some alternatives? Well, apartments. You could rent an apartment. You could rent a condo. Um, if you're renting, obviously you don't have to worry about that very large down payment. You can make monthly rental payments. And since you do not own the apartment, then some other things are true. It means you can't deduct any property taxes on it, so that's a downside. And you can't make a profit if it sells. So if you're renting a condo and it sells, you can't make any profit from it. A condominium or a condo or condominium is a form of home ownership. You can purchase a condo. It's similar to owning an apartment. They're jointly owned. So you can see in the picture, these could be condos here. If you own a condo, it is similar to owning a house where you are still responsible for the maintenance of the property of what's inside the house, but you may not have to mow lawns or anything like that, but you do have to pay what's called a maintenance fee. Okay, those fees are used to hire workers to fix the roof or to mow the lawn or to keep the development looking proper. And a lot of this all comes down to what you would prefer or what you can afford. Let's look at some examples. Last year, Bert paid a monthly condominium maintenance fee of $912. 15% of that fee covered his monthly property taxes. So he owns the condo. How much did Bert pay last year in property taxes on his condo? So 15% of that was his property taxes. So you just multiply 912 times 15. So you get his property taxes to be $136.80. That's monthly. To find his annual, you would just take that amount and multiply it times 12 to get this amount right here. So that's his annual property tax on his condo, which is sometimes less than a home. It just depends on the value of the condo. Maggie's monthly, well, let's skip that one. One of the things in the reading was we talked about, or in the reading was something called a cooperative, which is owned by several people. And these apartment buildings or condominiums are owned by several people known as shareholders. You guys know what shareholders are. We learned that earlier in the year. This particular co-op has a total of 50,000 shares outstanding. Janet lives there. She has an apartment and she owns 550 shares of the co-op. The percentage that she owns can be expressed. You just take the 550 she owns divided by the outstanding amount and multiply that times. So you divide those two, you get 0.011, multiply that times 100, and you get 1.1%. So that's what she owns. Okay, let's look at one more example. This is going to be a short lesson because most of the lesson has to do with graphing calculators and spreadsheets, and we're not going to be using those. So Gary Larson's job is relocating to a new city. He's going to be there at least 10 years. Here's a bunch of numbers. Gary knows he can afford a monthly rent of $2,500. If he buys, he can put $100,000 down and take out a $350 mortgage for 20 years with a rate of 6%. We're not going to create a spreadsheet, but we are going to use this new formula here. Gary's yearly rent increase can be modeled using an exponential function. R is the rent. A is his initial annual rent. B is the rate of increase expressed as a percent. And D represents the year number. So for example, suppose that Gary signs a contract for a monthly rent of $800 and the annual rate of increase is 2%. Okay, so the rate is equal to $800 a month times 12. That's this. 1 plus 2% divided by 100 would be 0.02. All raised to in this case, the first year. So this would be the first year. That's that 1 minus 1, which is part of the formula, which would be 1 minus 1 is 0. So you get all of this to the 0 power. Anything, you remember, anything raised to the 0 power, remember that exponent rule? So this would be 1 plus 0.02 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is equal to 1. So all of this right here turns into just 1. So you have 12 times 800, which is 9,600, times all of this is just 1, which would be 9,600. So in the second year, he's going to see a rate increase. The rate, his new rent is going to be 12 times 800 again, same numbers, but in his second year, now this changes to 2 minus 1 instead of 1 minus 1. So you get 1.02 to the first power, right here, times 9,600, which will be 9,792. So then his second year, this is what he's going to pay in rent. So you divide that by 12 to show his monthly payments. This new formula here for rent, if there's going to be an increase, this is what you would use. So if you wanted to find their rent in any particular year after their initial year, you just use this formula. And there's going to be several of those questions probably in your homework. That's it, short and sweet, this lesson.